Hello everybody, welcome to LLK number 4. That is Knit with Laura and Lola. I am Laura Nelkin, and Lola is my alter ego who sometimes shows herself more than others. You'll never know if she's going to be here or not. And I am super excited to share a lot with you today. I've had a lot going on since I recorded a log. I went to SSK in Nashville. I had 2 patterns release. I have been enjoying summer to its fullest in the Finger Lakes region, which is where I live. And I'm really excited to dive right in and tell you all about what's going on. So I think the first thing we should start with is new patterns that have released. One is the Brioche Bandito shawl. And this shawl is based on a design I did for a cowl called Brioche Bandito for the M Club a few years ago. And what's really interesting about this pattern is that it's worked in stockinette stitch brioche. So there's a very clear right side and wrong side to the brioche. And it is worked out from the center. So it's a pretty interesting shawl construction that makes a shawl that fits really beautifully on your shoulders. I know I'm not wearing it on my shoulders right now. I'm really excited for it to get a little cooler out so we can start wearing our knits again, because I worked on this when I was in Ireland and I absolutely love these colorways. This is the autumnal colorway. I have kits for Brioche Bandito because it uses 4 different colors of Seven Sisters Meridian, which is a superwash merino nylon. And because it uses different amounts of those 4 different colors, the kit just really makes sense. And it also has beads on the edge, so I've had a really good time coordinating beads for the 5 different colorways that it comes in. There is a thread set up if you're somebody who's going to be knitting Brioche Bandito with us in my Ravelry group. This is a fun shawl. It's a skill builder. If you haven't knit brioche before, I think I'd start with something simpler like my brioche topper hat and then try this out, because since you're working flat, you have brioche knit rows on the right side and brioche purl rows on the wrong side. If you've knit traditional brioche, that's actually brioche ribbing, where you're like doing a brioche knit and then a brioche purl on every row. So the stockinette stitch brioche is a little bit different. It ends up being a flatter fabric, like it's not as squishy as traditional brioche, and I really like it, particularly for wrapping around your neck, because there's not too much bulk. Sorry, there's this hair that's really bugging me. Crazy. So that is Brioche Bandito shawl. It's a really, really fun knit, and I had a good time. I will say that it wasn't the easiest knit for me to do while I was on the bus in Ireland, because I was knitting it on one of my Ireland trips. And so I would do the brioche sections when I was in my room, and then once I got to the garter stitch, I was good to go. But I was like placing beads on the bus, on a ferry. One of my friends was like, you were placing beads and there were like 4-meter seas, like we were crossing over to the Aran Islands, and it was insane. And I was basically trying to knit on this just to keep from throwing up, like as a distraction, because I felt like it wasn't very professional if I was the one who got sick on the ferry. And I managed to keep it together, although after a while I did just have to close my eyes and meditate a little bit, and then we were there, and the Aran Islands were perfect, and it was a very good reminder of how rough it must be to live on an island like that, and how remote and how amazing it was that they were settled when they were settled, that people would take these like tiny little skiffs over those islands and live and have to make it back over to the mainland for any of their needs. Now they have helicopters if there's an emergency, and the ferries are a lot quicker than taking a skiff over like they used to do. Sorry, that was like a little travel side story. Lola totally took over for a second there. The other thing that has released this week is Polka. Polka is actually another design that I worked on when I was in Ireland this spring. Polka means pockets in Irish. I'm going to flash a picture up of Polka right now so you can see it a little more clearly than me holding it up to the camera. It is knit in Jill Draper Makes Stuff Kingston. We love Jill Draper. Let's just say that for a moment. So one of the things I love about Jill Draper, besides that she's super fun to hang out and travel with, is that she makes yarn that is pretty much directly from the farm to the skein. So she works with farmers and finds fibers that she's interested in working with She buys their whole clip, and then she gets that clip scoured and sends it to a mill and designs a yarn that she knows will work with that fiber in its best way. So Polka is designed in her brand new yarn Kingston, and Kingston is actually made up of 100% targi that's from the Finger Lakes region. So it's from a farm. Bella just like perked up behind the camera, which is really adorable. It's like home yarn. So it's from a farm that's probably like 45 minutes, an hour from here, and they raise a huge flock of targi, and Jill brought that whole clip and has made some really incredible yarn in it with it. This targi, she gets the fleece dyed before she gets the yarn milled. So when you look at the yarn, you see that it has a ton of different colors in it and like little flecks and bits, and it's like marled and tweedy and textured. It's a little bit reminiscent of a yarn from Donegal or Ireland. It's a little different than that because they're milled differently, but it's got a similar feel to it. It's rustic without being like toothy or scratchy. But what's important with Polka is that you want to use a yarn that has a fair amount of structure so that your pockets don't sag. Because if you use something like alpaca or silk or cashmere, Bella is cracking up that pockets sag. So let's all just take a moment and talk about saggy pockets. Nice snort, Bella. Sorry. What am I going to do when she goes to college? Oh, that's such a good segue. Okay. So for Polka, I am doing my first ever structured knit along. So it's like a structured sweater knit along where I've come up with a schedule that I'm sure you're going to be able to adhere to, like a week in between some steps, 2 weeks in between other steps. I'll be releasing videos and blog posts and whatever I think you guys need to have success knitting this. But if you follow along with the cal, that is very, very reasonable in terms of what you could get knit in each time frame, you will have a finished sweater for the fall festival season. So if you're somebody that goes to fall knitting festivals like Rhinebeck, for example, you could definitely have Polka done for Rhinebeck. And I am actually not going to be at Rhinebeck, which is New York State Sheep and Wool, for the first time ever. And you should feel bad for me until you find out that the reason that I'm not going to be at Rhinebeck is because I'm going to Scotland with a group of knitters. Right? So now you don't feel bad for me. I'm actually going to Loch Ness Yarn Festival, and I'm getting to take classes with some really incredible instructors from Shetland. So I have a day of personal development on my trip. I'm very excited about that, but I am sad that I'm not going to get to see all of you that I normally get to see at Rhinebeck this year. But it would be really fun if people who knit Polka get together at Rhinebeck and take a picture of themselves and send it to me. And then there's going to be a bunch of people on the Scotland trip that are also going to knit Polka, and we can take a picture and send it to you. And it'll be like we're together, even though we're thousands of miles away from each other. So more about the cal. I do have some yarn for Polka in my Etsy shop. Some of the colors are selling out, others I still have a fair amount left. So if you're interested in working with Kingston, I'll give you guys a link to my Etsy shop. I also have the latches right there, those leather closures by Jewel. Those are in my Etsy shop as well. I'd sold out of them, but I'm getting more in. Those are really easy to get, so I'll relist those in a few days. And shipping on them is not expensive, so if you need to order it separately from yarn because you don't want to miss out on yarn, don't worry about that. We'll figure something out. So that is Polka. I'm going to tell you more about Polka and its construction and how it works with its dolman sleeves and integrated pockets in a separate video that's for the knit along. So I'm not going to waste time with that here, but I hope that you think about knitting along with us. It's going to be really fun. I haven't run a knit along for a new design in a while that is structured with like weekly prizes. I'm used to doing that for mystery knit alongs, but I haven't done a mystery knit along in a year, so this is it's exciting, and the community, I can already feel it starting in my Ravelry group. Everybody's really excited and chatting away and asking questions, and there's going to be a lot of support. So this would be a fine first sweater if you haven't knit a sweater before. It's not a traditional sweater, so it won't be constructed like any sweater you've ever knit before. I think I forgot to mention that it is knit in the Novus construction, which is a side-to-side construction. It's a really fun knit. It's really goal-oriented. So that is Polka. I hope you knit Polka with us. Next up, let's talk about what I'm knitting. So you can tell from this whole conversation that what I just showed you that's finished that you're going to get to start knitting are things that I knit this spring. So what I'm knitting right now are the things that hopefully you'll be knitting later in the fall or this winter. I have a photo shoot with a photographer on next Monday. So I'm basically just in crank mode trying to get as much stuff as I can get done for that photo shoot, because it's quite expensive and a lot of work to set up a shoot. So the more pieces I can fit into a shoot, the better that goes. So I know I have the next project for the N Club going into that shoot, and I have the next Lola's Choice. Both of those come out in September, and those are pretty much done. I think I have 3 rows left. This is the N Club project in my favorite alpaca bag. And I love this project so much. I feel like I'm gonna get a little teary when it's done. I'm gonna be a little sad. So that's in here. I'm knitting that, but it should be done very, very soon. I am going to go back to that Lopi sweater, and hopefully that will be done by Monday. I really just am going to wear that with a pair of jeans. If you follow me on Instagram, earlier this winter you saw me working on a Lopi sweater in this color Galaxy, and I put it away because something wasn't right about the neckline. It was like too square and dorky for me. Like I just couldn't, Lola would not let me live with that. She shut that down. But I need to refigure that out, and I've walked away from it for so long that I have to kind of wrap my brain back around it and then work on it. And that I'm hoping to have done for the photo shoot. And in my mind, that sweater will be a sweater we could work on this winter together if it comes together the way I think it will. I love Let Lopi for sweaters. It is super lightweight. I don't find it that scratchy, particularly if you soak it in the final rinse with a bit of conditioner, which kind of softens the fibers a little bit. But I'll work on alternative yarns for that design for people who are not Let Lopi lovers. I also made a bunch of new Pass the Peyote kits. Pass the Peyote bracelets, and I'm working on kind of a whole kit line for Pass the Peyote because that kit did incredibly well, and I keep getting emails from people asking if they can buy it, and right now that's kind of like in production again, and that should be out by the fall, I hope. Seems like it will. I need to replace my daughter since she's going to college.
You can never replace me.
I can never replace her. So silly.
Just get another dog.
So that is pretty much, and so Bella just said I could get another dog, and I am not allowed to get another dog when Noche, who you guys met like 2 logs ago, passes away. So I signed a contract with my husband that said that I would not get another dog after Noche, and Noche would be my last dog. And I think he has that contract in like a fireproof safe somewhere. So we've had a dog since he met me, and we met in our early 20s, and he is done with dogs. We have 2 cats, they're awesome. And I'll just borrow a friend's dog if I need a dog, you know? So that was a total segue again. Let's see what we want to talk about next. I'm going to check my notes. Do you guys mind if I'm really unofficial and I check my notes? Oh, totally no. I want to tell you what I'm obsessed with. And what I'm not obsessed with all of a sudden, and you're not going to be surprised, is punch needle had to just get put away for a little while. I am not working with my punch needle until I get a few other things ready and off my plate for the photo shoot. I just have to fill in that center. So you'll see it again. It's in timeout right now. And I am not doing any sewing because, again, I'm trying to get ready for that photo shoot. I also, kind of amusingly, the other day was hanging up clothing because a friend was coming to stay in our guest room, which is also where my closet lives. And my curtain rod fell down because there was so much clothing in my closet. And it was kind of cool because it forced me to unload everything to rehang the curtain rod. And I realized that I have this stack of really nice summer dresses. I'm actually wearing one of them right now, and I'll tell you about it in a bit. And I just really don't need another summer dress. So although I cut out that Mississippi Avenue dress, I'm gonna put it on hold for a little while, and I will come back to it maybe this winter, because I think it will, if we travel somewhere warm, it will roll up really small for travel. So maybe that will be some good motivation to get that done then. But for now, sewing is on hold. But what is not on hold is eating stone fruit and making apricot jam. So it is summer here, and it's such a good summer this year. The stone fruit did really well. The last bunch of years we've had like a late frost and lost a lot of the fruit on our fruit trees in the area. And one of our local orchards grew apricots, and their trees matured this year, and we got stunning apricots from them. So on Saturday I made like 7 pints of apricot jam. It's sweet at first and then like a tiny bit bitter at the end, which makes it really interesting. I tried to use the least amount of sugar possible to still have it set, but not be like overly sugary and sweet. It's really flavorful and yummy. And I actually have a whole quart of syrup, which was like a byproduct of making the jam. And I want to make some kind of like pound cake that I like punch a lot of holes in, and then pour the syrup with like some rum or some whiskey or something on top over the pound cake and let that soak. But if any of you guys have any ideas of what I could do with a quart of really amazing apricot syrup, I am open. I know there's got to be a cocktail in my future in there with like seltzer and whiskey and apricot and like some ginger or something, or maybe like ginger beer, although I really don't like sweet drinks, so we'll have to think on that one. But let me know if you have any ideas for apricot syrup, because there is a lot of it right now. The other thing that I've been obsessed with, which is Bella's fault, is she's been making these amazing black bean brownies because she's not eating any dairy right now. So this black bean brownie recipe, which I'll also link to, is dairy-free. It's also gluten-free. Doesn't have any wheat in it, right? Does it have flour in it, Bella? I didn't think it had flour in it. I'll look at it again. I kind of think it doesn't have flour in it. She's pulling it up right now, so we'll let you know. But it's excellent, and it makes like the fudgiest, yummiest brownie. I think it has oats, not flour, Bella. It has oats, not flour. I'm always right.
I thought oats had gluten in them.
Well, you can use gluten-free oats.
Well, I don't know if we...
Now we're arguing. That's classy. So they're super yummy. They're really fudgy. They taste a lot like a Duncan Hines brownie in a box, but like 100 times better. But they have that kind of chewy, fudgy quality, and no one will know that there's black beans in them. She puts a ton of dark chocolate in with them, and they're yummy. And I'd show you some, but we ate them all. So maybe she'll make more again.
Maybe tonight. Please.
Maybe tonight. So that is what I'm obsessed with. It's kind of food related, what I'm obsessed with. And the last bit I want to tell you about is going to SSK. And 2 weekends ago, so not the weekend that just happened, the weekend before, I went to Nashville for SSK, which is a phenomenal retreat run by the Knit Girls. And they are just such authentic, lovely, real women who are super funny. And who they attract that comes to their retreat is exactly that. So it was like being with my people. People were so themselves and not hung up on what this should look like or who they should be, but just like there to learn and be together. And it was so incredibly welcoming and friendly. And I had a blast. And one of the things I did at the retreat, which felt a little funny because I was there to teach knitting, was I talked about sewing a lot. Like I think I talked about sewing at a knitting retreat more than I talked about knitting at the knitting retreat, which is kind of amusing, but we're all creative people and I think it's just what we're all into. So the dress that I was wearing a different version of this dress there, and I'll put a link to this dress in the show notes. It's from a designer from Copenhagen called How to Do Fashion, and it's called Arhus number 5. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. It's Arhus. And it's a sweet little vintage style dress. I did like raise the waistline a little bit on me. I wear it a lot. Typically you'll find that if I find a pattern that I like for my body and I change the pattern a little bit, I'll make more than one because it's kind of worth doing that once I've prepped the pattern and figured it out. I love this dress. Did I already say that? I'm going to say it again. What was funny about this dress is when I saw the designer's photos of this dress, I kind of saw them and then passed by them because they weren't styled in a way that I style my clothing. And then when I was on Instagram one day, I saw somebody had made this dress for them in like a denim chambray, and I was like, oh, that is so right up my alley. So after seeing that photo, I ended up buying the pattern from Copenhagen, from Denmark, and getting it shipped. And I think it cost like almost $40 in the end to get this thing shipped to me. And then I had a paper pattern that I had to make copies off of. Now she sells PDF patterns, which is my preference for buying sewing patterns. But what I do, when you buy PDF sewing patterns, you can print them out on your printer, and then you have to like tape them all together and then cut them out, and it's kind of not fun and it doesn't bring you joy. It's kind of annoying. And then the dog always like lays right on top of them as you're figuring out like where A and B and C from like row 8 are or whatever.
She just loves you.
What?
She just loves you.
She loves me. She wants to be right next to me. So there is a service that I found out about, I think from So Liberated, from Meg, that you can send your PDF patterns to, and they'll print out on plotter paper, like on big sheets of A4 paper. And it's really inexpensive, especially if you get a bunch of patterns printed at once. So I tend to like buy a few PDF sewing patterns and then send them to that service. And I'll give you guys a link for that in the show notes. So if you're somebody who's buying PDF patterns and then not enjoying that one step, there's a way around that. And then you always have the PDF to get them printed again. And actually, like with the Aeronite pants, I think I got 2 copies printed of the Aeronite pants because I knew I was going to cut out a pair that would be the size for me and Bella. And my husband has actually requested a pair of Aeronite pants, but a little trimmer. Like we have an idea of making like some pretty comfortable home pants for him.
God.
Are you?
We're all gonna have matching pants.
Yeah, matching Aeronite pant family. It's gonna be amazing. I love it. So that's my little sewing bit for the day. That's my like tip and trick to kind of keep you going. So that sewing pattern thing was a total aside. Lola clearly got excited about sewing. I meant to keep telling you a little more about SSK. I had a super fabulous time getting to meet Isabel Kramer and hanging out with my friend Kirsten Kapoor. Kirsten and I haven't been in the same place at the same time in a little while, and we had a lot to catch up on, and that was really fun. We got very lucky one night because Anne Shane and Kay Gardner took us to see the Punch Brothers at the Ryman. And I absolutely fell in love with the Punch Brothers. They were excellent. The leader of the Punch Brothers, this guy, Chris Thiele, he plays the mandolin. He likes to noodle a lot. At the end of the show, I was like going on tour with the Punch Brothers and like, I don't know, selling quesadillas in the parking lot beforehand. I was very excited. And I actually might go see them next week if I can get it together in Buffalo, because they are playing in Buffalo. We'll see if I am really going on tour or I'm just talking about it. I did buy a tiny bit of yarn, not a ton of yarn, when I was at SSK, and I want to show that to you because I feel like you get to see future project stash enhancement, right, at the same time. And one yarn that I got, just a little bit of the fingering weight version, and it also comes in a DK weight version, is Bowie from Hip Strings. And this is, I need to like, don't have my reading glasses on, so let's get the right distance there. It's a blue-faced Leicester Shetland Manx Lotan, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, blend that is exclusive to Hip Strings. So I am really, really, really drawn right now to companies that are making their own yarns. They're coming up with their own blends. They're working with the fibers to the best of each fiber's characteristic. And this yarn is milled beautifully. It's milled outside of Pittsburgh. I'm very intrigued by it, and I will be working with it in the future. I'm just not quite sure what it's going to be and if I'm going to go for the fingering weight or the DK. But what I did is I like to audition yarns. Like I when I see a yarn I don't know, I don't tend to just buy a sweater quantity. I tend to get some and then play with it and see what it could be. So I just got a small skein of the Bowie fingering weight to play with, and then I will get more from them once I know what I want to do with it. here's a little trick. So typically 2 strands of fingering weight makes a DK weight yarn. So if I want to see how this acts as a DK, I'll bet I can just hold 2 strands together and it will give me an idea. It won't be exactly like the DK, but it'll be close and it'll give me an idea how it can behave for a project. The next thing I got doesn't match what I'm wearing at all. That's a joke. It totally
Do you have a favorite
matches.
color or something?
Do you have a favorite color? This must be my favorite color right now. So at SSK had an awesome marketplace on Saturday morning. I had a table at the marketplace. Thank you so much to all of you who stopped by and got kits. It was really fun. I had a great time. But I did run around and do a tiny bit of shopping. And I decided that it would be fun to work with yarns from 2 different dyers together. So I got this gorgeous single ply base from Leading Men Fiber Arts in Gothic Queen. And it's a fingering weight that's a superwash merino silk and yak single ply. And then I'm gonna hold along with it this fig lace, which is a kid mohair silk from Once Upon a Corgi. And together, that made a giggle. Just get that out of your system. I'm gonna hold these together and do some kind of like ballet style novice construction. And I think that I'll be able to work on that when I'm in Scotland. I think it'll be a really great traveling project because it will break down really small. Just for travel, like it won't be a big Aran weight sweater to be knitting on, but I'm super excited about these skeins and you'll see more of that. That's one that I'm hoping I can be like knitting along with you guys, so you'll get to see it. The other skein that I got, and this was in my goodie bag, is by Stranded Dye Works, and it is the color that she dyed for SSK called 4224. And this is going to be your giveaway this week, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Okay? The last thing to tell you about is the prize for the kit along in my Ravelry group, which is over at the end of the day on July 31st. And it is going to be a bag by my friend Robin from Mimby, which is made in my backyard. She is a local friend who has started making bags. She used to work with this company called Craftstitute that I taught for a bit. There was a kind of like a learning environment just north of Ithaca, and I taught there a few times. But she's printing her bags and then making them and sewing them. They've got pockets on the inside. The straps are one of the aspects I love about this bag. They are leftover leather scraps from Aurora Shoe Company, which is a local handmade shoe company that's near here that I still have shoes that I got in the early 90s from them that I still wear. I think they're on their 3rd sole and I love them. I would totally love to buy Bella a pair of their shoes if she'll let me. I think she will. They have some good blue ones that are adorable. She needs them. I don't need any more shoes.
I need them.
I need them. I'll give you a link so you guys can check them out. You'll see what I mean. They're really lovely handmade shoes that are made locally. So Robin donated a bag for that giveaway, and that is very sweet. Thank you so much, Robin. You rock. Finally, let's wrap this up because this ended up being a little longer than I planned because I can get super chatty. Super duper. Giveaway time. So, the winner of last week's giveaway, which is a jewelry kit from my Etsy shop, is Fair Isle Heather. Congratulations, Heather. Choose a kit, get in touch with me, let me know what you want, and with your address, and I will get that shipped out to you. This giveaway I'm not going to call it this week, but like this log's giveaway, because I don't know when the next log will be that I film, is the giveaway is going to be for the skein of Stranded Dye Works Solo. It is dyed in Great Britain. The dyer came over for, I believe her name is Amy. She was lovely. She came over for SSK. It's really beautiful. She dyed this colorway for SSK. It's like a little rusty and green and fun. I think it would be really fun to pair it with something else. It's a single ply superwash merino, and the colorway is 4224. It's got 400 yards on the skein. And all you have to do to be entered to win this yarn is to leave a comment in the thread in my Ravelry group and let me know what you think about having another swap. So I don't think we've had a swap in my Ravelry group in like a year and a half, and we had a really fun one. I guess it was like last January. We a bunch of us dyed yarn together and then did a swap with our hand-dyed yarn, and that was a blast. But we haven't done another swap since then, and I'd love to get an idea of if you'd be into doing a swap. It's totally okay for you to comment and say you're not really into doing swaps, but that you love me. Just make sure you say you love me. I'm really needy.
I tell you I love you.
I know. Just joking.
Is my affection not enough for you?
Yeah, Bella's affection is not enough for me. I need all the affection. Well, how am I going to do these without her? So leave some comment about swaps. Like if you have been in a swap in another group in the past and it was really fun for you, maybe give an idea. And I'm just thinking on swaps right now. I'm thinking we're going to do one in September, kind of like mid-September we'll get it organized. So since I'm thinking and processing and creating, let me know what you like in a swap. And you could be entered to win this gorgeous skein of yarn. And I really am thankful that you just sat there and listened to me for this whole log.
You're probably knitting.
You're probably knitting. I am not knitting, which is making me freak
This
out.
is why you're...
Definitely ask any questions. Happy to help. And I hope that you come knit polka with us because that is going to be a blast. Thank you.